Hi guys, welcome back. We are going to start a new unit this week. So on Monday or today, whenever you're watching this video, I am going to show you, or I showed you our Unit 5 notes packet and kind of walked you through that. So Geometry Bridge Unit 5, Part 1 that we're going to start is trig functions. So we're going to talk about trig functions. We're going to talk about the missing sides of triangles and the missing angles of triangles and how to find those. Okay, so you can either print out this note packet, you can either open it up on your Chromebook and follow along, or you can just write the notes in a notebook. Okay, so to get started, we're going to talk about what is trigonometry. So what is this actually? Well, trigonometry, let me get a nice color here. Let's hope this fits in here. Trigonometry is the study of triangle measurement. All right, so pretty simple. We're going to look at the angle measures. We're going to look at the side measures and all of that stuff. The first part of our lesson is going to be just setting up these ratios, okay? So each acute angle of a right triangle has the following trigonometric ratios. We just say trig ratios to make it easy. So if we're looking at this triangle over here, so we have angle A here is, and then the side across from it is side little a. Okay, so we use big letters, capital letters, to mark our angles and lowercase letters to mark our sides. So angle A is going to be across from side A. Angle B is going to be across from side B. Angle C across from side C. Okay. We also need to make sure that we know what the hypotenuse is in a triangle. Okay, so if we have a right triangle, let me switch this to a highlighter. The hypotenuse is always that side across from that right angle. Okay, so let's get my pen back and let's talk about some of these ratios. So each acute angle of a right triangle has the following ratios. Sine. Okay, so sine is the first one. Sine, the ratio of the leg opposite the angle to the hypotenuse. Okay, so it's a ratio. Ratio means a fraction. Okay, so we do opposite over the hypotenuse for sine. Okay, cosine, the ratio of the leg adjacent to the angle and the hypotenuse. So we do adjacent over hypotenuse. I'm just abbreviating so there's not a lot of room. Our last one that we're going to talk about is tangent, the ratio of the leg opposite the angle to the leg adjacent. So our fraction looks like opposite over adjacent. So let's take a look at this. Let me use my pointer for you so you guys can see. So sine of A, all right, so now we're looking at, I'm going to erase this yellow side since we know that's the hypotenuse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at angle A because first is sine of angle A. So once I look at angle A, I like to say, okay, well, here's my angle, right? We have that written there. And then my sides, here's my hypotenuse, always stays the same because it's across from the 90-degree angle. My side adjacent to angle A, okay? Adjacent means right next to, so this is going to be our side adjacent, and opposite is going to be over here. Okay, so when we're looking for sine of A, opposite over hypotenuse, well, we would just label the sides. So for sine of A, for this triangle, the opposite is A, the hypotenuse is side C. We don't have numbers for these right now. We're just looking at the letters. So we'll say A over C. All right, and then now we're looking for angle B. Remember, our hypotenuse stays the same, but our sides are going to change. So here's angle B. Adjacent is right next to it. Remember, not the hypotenuse. This is always going to be the hypotenuse. And opposite is across from it. Okay, so sine of B would be little b over the hypotenuse is C. Okay, so opposite over hypotenuse for sine. Okay, then we can look at cosine. Cosine of A, so now we're back to A. Remember, we used red for A. So we're back to A. Adjacent over hypotenuse. Remember, this was the adjacent side over my hypotenuse. So now we have B over C. Okay, then for the cosine of B, adjacent of cosine or of B is A over C. Okay, if you notice, looking at these, the sine of A and the cosine of B, look, their fractions are the same. Just something to see. And then the sine of B and cosine of A, those fractions are the same as well. Just something to look for to see some patterns a little bit. All right, and then tangent. So tangent is opposite over adjacent. So tangent of A, let's go back to red. So opposite of A was little a over the adjacent side, which is B. All right, and then tangent of B, the opposite was B over A. Okay, so a way to remember this, because sometimes you're like, what the heck, how am I going to remember this, is a little saying, and you probably have heard of this before. So, ka, tawa. All right, so sine is opposite over hypotenuse. O over H. Whoops. Cosine C is adjacent A over hypotenuse. And tangent is opposite O over A adjacent. So that's the way we remember how to set these up. SOHCAHTOA. All right. So let's do a couple examples and then we will be done with today's video. So let's leave this up at the top so we can see it. And we're going to be labeling all of these. So number one, when I look at number one, it says sine of A. So we need to, and if you need to, write it over here. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Put a little note next to it. So we're looking at angle A. My opposite is 5. My hypotenuse across from the right angle, always that diagonal one is how we can tell that hypotenuse over 13. All right, the next one we're looking for cosine of A. So cosine is now adjacent over hypotenuse. So we're still looking at A. The adjacent side is 12 over my hypotenuse is 13. And then tangent of A, opposite over adjacent. So my opposite side is 5 over adjacent side is 12. All right. Then our other one down here looks at angle C. So let's take a look at angle C. Sine of C. So sine, again, opposite over hypotenuse. But now we're looking at angle C. So the opposite of angle C is 12. The hypotenuse stays the same. The hypotenuse is always going to be that same side in the triangle. So cosine of C is adjacent over hypotenuse. So adjacent would be this one, 5 over hypotenuse was 13. And then tangent, remember, opposite over adjacent, 12 over 5. Okay, if you see the pattern here, like sine, cosine, tangent of A is all of those, and then they're kind of flipped when we look at the opposite, the other angle in our triangle. Okay. So for number 2, let's take a look at this one. We see that we have one side and another side, but we don't have this side here. Okay, there is a way to find that. When you guys are doing these, that side will be given to you, but I'm just going to do it really quick so that we can remember the Pythagorean theorem. Now I got to remember how to spell this. Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, so we remember those sides. So I always say the shorter side is A, the longer side is B, and then the hypotenuse is always C. So A is 9 squared plus B is 12 squared. That gives me C squared. So what does that equal? So 9 squared is 81 plus 12 squared is what, 144 equals C squared. Use my calculator here. 81 plus 144 is 225. And that's C squared. And to find what C is, I take the square root. And the square root of 225 is 25, I believe. Oh no, 50. So then my side C, I'm going to erase these letters. My side C is 15. Okay, so that's just a quick refresher. You're not going to have to do that. The sides will be labeled for you. What I'm really focusing on is, do you know how to set up these ratios, these trig ratios? So sine of angle W. So let's look at W. Sine, we have to remember opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite side is 12. My hypotenuse is what we found to be 15. Cosine, adjacent over hypotenuse. So of W, adjacent is 19 or 9, and hypotenuse is 15. Tangent, opposite over adjacent. So 12 over 9. Okay, so take a moment to write down. Let's try these 3. Why don't you try these 3 on your own? Pause the video. And then once you have them written down, press play again, and then you can check them. So sine again, opposite over hypotenuse. Now, if you're like, okay, I got these, I don't need to write this down, that's totally fine. So sine of x, 9 over 15. Cosine, adjacent over hypotenuse, so 12 over 15. And tangent, opposite over adjacent, so 9 over 12. All right, so that's the first video. These should be pretty easy setting up these. So once you finish watching this video, you can go on to the second one, and then you can work on your practice. Have a good day, guys.